Hi, I'm Wanda with Jimmy Branch Homestead, and I just wanted to share with you today's harvest. So we're going to be preserving some of this. I don't know if I'll get to these peppers, plus we love them so much we eat them a lot. I'll have to check and see how many I have in the refrigerator. I do want to take care of the squash because I have several here, and I think I have 4 more on my counter. And I'll be working on tomatoes, but not in this video because I will be canning tomatoes. So keep an eye out for that video. I have several cucumbers for fresh eating. So there was a lot in this bucket. And there's okra down on the bottom. And okra is one of the things that we will be preserving in this video. So I think I'll concentrate on the squash and the okra today and get those taken care of. I do have enough for a meal of okra. Some of it's on the small side because I knew I was going to be preserving. You really want them, you know, 4 to 6 inches, but you have to watch out because if they're too big around, they really get woody and fibrous and they're no good. Those I just keep and dry out for seeds because I love this kind of okra. So I'll be showing you a couple ways to preserve the okra today and the squash. Well, it is extremely hot and humid today. As you can see, I've changed my clothes. Some days you just have to have multiple showers. So it is 98 degrees with a heat index of 129. Yes, that's what I said, 129 degrees. So we live here in southeast Missouri, and it is extremely hot and humid. So some days I can't do everything outside all day. A lot of times I can, even with the heat, but other times I can't. Anyway, I took a break from the food garden and decided to come out and trim all the boxwoods in our front yard. So that took me a while. And so I just got out of the shower, cleaned up, so we'll get back to our project. Okay, I have all my squash washed up now. I have a veggie brush that I use to clean them, just to get the dirt that's stuck on. We grow organically here, so there's no pesticides of any kind. But I do like to just scrub the dirt off, or you know, any bug feces or anything like that. So they're nice and clean. And we're just going to cut the ends off. And I'll save these for the compost. And then we just need to kind of cut it in fairly small pieces. The first few, because these are like a crook neck, I'm just going to do, maybe 1/4-inch slices. And these are going to be wonderful freeze-dried. If you don't have a freeze dryer, of course you can use a dehydrator. As it gets a little bigger, I'm going to cut it into more pieces. Maybe quarters, you know. The size you'd want for soups. That's what I'm going to do with these. I'm going to freeze dry them and keep them for soups. Of course, the bigger slices are going to have to be cut into a little bit more pieces. I do have a large dicer I could put these in, but honestly it's probably just as fast to cut them. So the bigger slices I just kind of put into like fourths, maybe sixths. That one's a little big. And although we don't peel them, we do need to like slice them so that the freeze dryer can dry all of this out. If you kept them whole or just cut them in half, I don't think it'd work too well because you really can't get it dry enough down inside. Well, you probably could, it'd just take you forever. Same thing with things like grapes and stuff like that. Always have to cut them in half and put the open side up. Okay, since the purpose of these is going to be for soups, I decided to cut them up smaller. So they're maybe little 1/4 inch cubes or so. Again, whatever size you usually use, you could do them in just slices if you really wanted to, but I wanted to do these like smaller for soups. Okay, so as I'm getting them chopped up, I'm filling up a tray. This is what the Harvest Right freeze dryer trays look like. I do have the medium. I have an older model, so it only has 4 trays. The newer models have 5. But, you know, I can still put quite a bit of food in there. So I can add just a tiny bit more to this and it's going to be full. You don't want to overfill them because it will run into the top of the bottom of the shelf above it, or the bottom of the shelf above it. So that's about right. And I'm just going to set it aside. Normally I have some plastic trays that go to these, and I would just pop it on, stack them up, and throw it in the freezer. But I want to get these in the freeze dryer today. I think I'll have enough between the squash and the okra. I want to freeze dry some of the okra. I'm gonna try just 1 tray to start with, and I'll show you some other ways that I'm gonna process that too. Okay, these are the last 3. I'm hoping it's gonna be enough for another tray, but I'm not sure. We'll see. I have a couple more over there if I need to. I was just kind of keeping those fresh to eat. We just love squash in the summertime, sauteed in just a little bit of olive oil and a vegetable seasoning, which it seems like the only time you can really get that seems to be in the summertime for grilling. So if you've never tried it, give it a whirl. It's wonderful. Maybe I'll do a video on it. Let me know in comments below if that's something you'd be interested in. I have also freeze-dried zucchini, but unfortunately this year so far, my zucchini has not done well. I've only gotten 1 zucchini plant, and I guess I'm getting borers in the stalks, or that and squash bugs, and I'm just having a heck of a time. I have replanted, so we'll see if they come up, and if I can get them under control or not. I really enjoyed the zucchini. It's amazing that you can make a delicious bread out of it that's sweet and doesn't taste anything like zucchini if you've never had that. I did freeze dry some last year, So maybe in another video I can take that out and make zucchini bread. Again, let me know if that's something you're interested in or not. I really need your feedback to know what kind of content you would like us to make. This one's kind of odd. It looks like it kind of broke on the stem and it kept growing, but then the stem kind of grew into it. So I'll just cut that off. There. Really doesn't take all that long to do this. It's a little bit time consuming. They didn't have freeze dryers when I was growing up. They didn't really have them out for the public back then. So it's nice that you can get them now. Again, I know it's kind of a pricey thing to invest in. We got ours through Home Depot where I had a coupon and I could put it on, I think it was 2 years interest free, so we could just make payments on it and not be paying interest, because we don't have the money to come out with that much at once either. I've noticed several stores are starting to sell them where you can order them through the stores now. They also have different accessories, such as additional trays that you can purchase. I think I have 3 sets myself because I like to be able to put them in and just stick a lid on them and throw them in the freezer, so when I get a chance to do it, or when I get a whole batch, because like during strawberries, I didn't have 4 trays full to run a load. I know I think I have 2 trays of strawberries and 1 of raspberries. I'll have to look in the freezer and see. That'll be a different video, so kind of keep an eye out for that. But they make wonderful snacks, or to put in smoothies and those kind of things too. There's so much you can do with a freeze dryer. I even enjoy making extra meals such as pastas. I do find that rotini or shells or something like that works much better than spaghetti for freeze drying, I guess because the air can get through it much easier in the vacuum process, freezing process. Many things I dehydrate, we do, or freeze dry. We do reconstitute, such as eggs. I do have a video out there on that. If you haven't seen it, go back and check our playlist for freeze drying. We had an abundance of eggs and couldn't eat them all, and I didn't want to waste them. So I freeze dried them, and surprisingly enough, they taste just like fresh eggs when you cook them. Now, the way I do it is like eating scrambled eggs, because you mix it up once it's dry. And actually, I mix it up and then I put it in the trays. Again, if that's something you're interested in, go back and check out our playlist. We have different playlists for building and for freeze drying, preserving in other ways, or canning. I did a lot of canning over the winter that I videoed and posted on soups and different things like that. Meats. This spring I did chicken when we harvested those, and we're really enjoying that canned chicken, let me tell you. And even if you don't grow your own food, if you find it on sale, it's a great way to preserve it. Another way that I like to preserve my squash is just cutting it in bigger cubes like I would for sauteing it and adding it to a stir fry. And then just throwing it in the freezer in a bag or in vacuum sealing. I like to vacuum seal most of my stuff because I don't always get around to using it right away, and that way it stays fresh. I still have some bell peppers in there that I froze last year and I vacuum packed that I forgot about because they were in the bottom of the freezer. I don't know if you ever have that problem, but I do once in a while. And right now my freezer is jam-packed. I need to get it defrosted and reorganized. We both were blessed with getting deer last year, and so I canned a lot, but I also have a lot in the freezer. And then the chickens we raise, a pig we butchered. So exciting to have that food security. Even if you can't grow your own food, again, you can do a lot of these type of projects by buying things on sale or in bulk. And preparing for your long-term storage. A lot of the stuff I freeze dry, which I really like, is good up to 25 years if I pack it with an oxygen absorber and in Mylar bags. 3 or 4 years probably in glass jars. But so far most of my stuff hasn't lasted that long, especially my fruits and stuff like that, because they make a great snack. I just love them. Almost done here. Okay, let's see if we can get another tray out of this. Oops. Oh, I got extra tissues in there. I do use the little pre-made tissue papers in the bottom of mine. I just find it's easier so I don't have to worry about stuff sticking to the tray. And they're just pre-cut to fit down in the trays. Again, you can get these from Harvest Right or other sources through Amazon or online. I have also purchased them through Retired at 40's website. I can't remember what their website is right off. But you could probably do a search and find it. Okay, I decided to go ahead and wash up the other, well, I have 2 of the 3 squash, and I'll cut these up and see if they fill up this tray. I don't want to put something like basil in there and then that flavor go into everything else because it's so strong. I have basil to dry, I have dill to dry, I have teas to dry, but that's where it gets a little tricky. Something that's more calm, like the squash and the okra, I think will be just fine together. But I don't want to throw basil or something like that into the mix. So we're going to go ahead and get these chopped up and see if it fills up this other tray, and then we'll move on to the okra. Okay, I have my okra all washed up. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the ends. And we'll keep those for the animals outside. And these are pretty small because I knew I was going to be processing. I had to pick every day. You don't want them to get too big. I usually like mine between, I don't know, 4 to 6 inches. But if they're too big around, even at 6 inches, they can get tough. And I'm just going to kind of slice them into 1/4 inch pieces or so. Just like we're getting ready to fry them. Now, I've never freeze-dried okra before, so this is going to be new to me. I'm trying to, that's why I only want to do 1 tray. I want to see if I can rehydrate them and fry them. If nothing else, I could use them in soup, certainly. Like if I wanted to make a gumbo or something. Some things reconstitute and you can't tell the difference. And other things, yeah, not so much. Okay. I want to make sure that I'm not using tough okra, because if I use tough okra, then my end result is not going to be good. Okay, so we ended up with 3 trays of the squash and 1 of the okra. So I'm going to meet you in the other room with the freeze dryer to show you how we're going to get it set up. Okay, this is my freeze drying room. I apologize that the air conditioner is running, so it's going to be kind of loud in the background. We do utilize our utility room, which of course the furnace is right here. And it's also our coat room and storage for all my vacuum sealing and freeze drying supplies. So I'm greatly appreciating having this room. I store my roasters, I store my extra appliances, canning stuff, you know, as much as I can fit in here. Okay, so first off, we are going to turn it on. The button is in the back, and I just reach back there, turn it on. It does take a minute to boot up. Okay, it just come up and it says harvest right. I don't think you can see any of that. Let's see if I can't get you closer, but it probably, my experience has been it doesn't show up too good. Okay, so now mine says customize and start. I'm going to hit start. Usually I like to pre-freeze things, but today I'm going to do not frozen. Okay, so it's telling me to go ahead and close the drain valve because it's sucking all that water out, so it's got to go somewhere once it freezes. Excuse me, once it defrosts. So the drain valve is over here on the right side. I know you can't see it, but I have just closed it. Okay, so I am going to open the freeze dryer. Oh, I took this off because of after each load, I like to take it off and let it really dry out good. Depending on what you're freeze drying in here, like if you were to freeze dry onions, which I want to do a whole load of onions one of these days, you would want to take everything out and wash it. This whole unit does come out. You have to be careful. It has a plug in the back of it. But this is what you put the trays on. So I am going to pause and go get some trays. Okay, so I have the food. I'm just gonna try and load these without dropping any of them. Usually I just bring one or two at a time. But usually they're frozen. Like I said, I like to pre-freeze and keep a lot of things in my freezer ready to go. Because it does seem like it cuts down a little bit on the processing time. Obviously, it doesn't have to freeze the food because it's already frozen when I do that. But yeah, I don't have near as much on this tray. Because again, I've never done it, I just want to try it. Okay, as I mentioned, I already closed the drain valve. It's down on this side in the back. So I'm going to hit continue. And now it's freezing. So it's going to bring the temperature down below zero. Right now it's 71. So that's going to take a while. We'll come back here in a little bit and I'll show you where we are. Okay, so for this method, I'm going to take a gallon freezer Ziploc bag and I'm going to put, about half a cup of flour, maybe a little more, doesn't really matter, in my bag, and a full cup of cornmeal, a little over. I'm going to do a heaping cup of cornmeal. And so I'm just going to kind of mix these together. Kind of seal my bag so I don't make a mess and get it all over. Okay, shake that together in there to mix it up good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut up my okra like I normally do. About 1/4 inch for frying, and this is going to be put in the freezer for frying so it will be ready. And the great thing about this, I can throw it in the air fryer. We're just going to put that in that mixture, and we're going to kind of, as we go, just kind of coat those in there, and it'll be fine. Once the bag gets pretty full, I can always add more. Again, you only want to use the nice tender pieces of okra. Last year I tried blanching it. I did not care for that method. It made a huge mess. So I like this much better. Much easier on me, and I think a more usable product as well. So okra is something that I never had until I moved to Missouri, and my husband introduced it to me. It's pretty good. Okay, so I ended up with probably half a gallon or so of the okra, and we'll go ahead and throw that in the freezer. And then I did have the 3 bigger ones. You know, before I cut the ends off, they were probably, I don't know, 8 inches long, at least 6 to 8 inches long. And they are tough. I can tell by when I cut them, and also by feeling them. So I will not be throwing these away. I'm going to dry them out, and then I can just take the seeds out. I'll cut it apart or pull it apart, break it apart, and just pull the seeds out. So, great way to save seeds. And I can just keep adding to this as I continue to harvest when we get too much to eat fresh. Okay, so it's been about 40 minutes, and the freeze dryer is still freezing. It's down to about 49 degrees. So it's got quite a ways to go. Again, it's because I did not pre-freeze the items. You can see the ice starting to build up on the walls in here. Like I said, it will drop down below 0. So I'll continue to check back with you as the process progresses, and then we will show you the final product once it's done. It typically takes about 24 to 36 hours. It does take a little bit longer when I do not pre-freeze. That's why I usually like to freeze the stuff in my freezer and then put it frozen into the freeze dryer. But, you know, it is what it is today. So I'll check back shortly. Okay, so the freeze dryer is finally on drying. It does not have a green bar here, so I don't know how much longer it's going to take. I'm thinking it probably added most of a day to it because I didn't have them frozen. So that's where we are right now. It just kind of reiterates to me that I want to do it when everything is frozen. I know in the middle of the night I got up and checked, and it was still in the freezing mode, and it was down to 0. So that's where we are right now. I'll check back soon. Just a moment for you. So it's been about 22 hours or so, and it's still on the first drying mode. So after it gets through the first drying mode, it has several hours, many hours, of a final dry. So I'm really seeing the benefit now of pre-freezing all my items before I put them in the freeze dryer, because it does make a huge, huge difference. So I'll check back once we get to the next mode. Okay, so it finally started the final dry. It has to go the whole entire length of the bar, which is several hours, and then it has a 2-hour additional final dry that you can increase. Like if it's going to time out probably during the middle of the night, then I just add hours to it so I don't have to get up in the middle of the night. Okay, so the machine has been going about 45 hours. Oh, it says right up here, 44 hours and 47 minutes. So almost 45 hours. It did finish in the middle of the night last night, so I actually extended it by 15 hours to give me plenty of time to get chores done this morning and such before I needed to take this out and package it. So what we're going to do at this point is hit cancel, and then I have to let the pressure off, so I have to open the valve. Not sure if you can hear that pressure releasing or not. It's really sunk on the seal, you can kind of tell. And now as the pressure's released, you can tell that the line is skinny and gone. So it's ready to open. So then I actually have this tool It's a moisture meter. And I just turn it on. Hopefully you can see that it is 0. And so when I will check the product, and it still reads 0. That's what we want. So we know that it's done. And I put it in a bigger piece. So the trays are warm. They're quite hot since it's been overdone for quite a while. Which is weird because there's ice still on the trays are hot, but there's ice here on the walls. Okay, everything seems to be quite done. That's good, that's what we want. Okay, so I'm going to take one tray at a time and go to the kitchen and package it. Okay, so first up I have the okra. I only did one tray of okra. It is very light and airy. Not sure if you could hear that, but it's crunchy. And we have to work fast because there's natural humidity in the air or the air conditioner moisture to get this into jars before it starts gathering that moisture. Now today I am storing for medium term storage, so this will last usually 2 or 3 years, no problem, in the jars. But we do need to take the air out, so I'll show you how we're going to do that once I get this jar filled. And these will definitely be great for soups. I can just throw them in as I'm making the things. So all winter long, I can add my produce to soups. And that just about fills 1 quart jar. Depending on how thick I did the products on the tray and how much they shrunk up, it usually takes 1 to 2 jars and to fill with 1 tray. Not usually 2, usually 1 to 1.5, but okay, so we're going to set that aside. I'm going to take a lid. Now these are new lids. You can use for sealing on the jars for freeze drying the lids over and over. I would not use ones that I canned with and then put them on the freeze dryer. I would only use ones that I've freeze dried with. But these are new. So I just put the lid on there, and then I have a mini vacuum sealer. You can get these on Amazon. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description. And this keeps plugged in on my counter, so it's always ready to use. And then I just set that on top and hit the button. Not sure if you can hear that. As it's sucking out the air, you can kind of tell a difference in sound. I have vacuum sealed in my big vacuum sealer. When I use cheaper jars, they broke. So you have to be careful with that. I've never had problems using this method. Okay. So another way that I like to store my freeze-dried goods is in the Mylar bags for long-term storage. So I'll go ahead and show you how that is done as well. These bags are available through Harvest Right. And this sealer comes with your freeze dryer when you order it. So basically, and this little stand, I think I got it at Walmart or a grocery store or something. It's for filling like your Ziploc bags, but it works pretty good. Even though it's on a slant, at least it keeps the envelope open or the bag open while you're filling it. Again, nice and dry, very light and airy. Freeze-dried food is super light because all the water is sucked out of it. Freeze-dried food has also been proven to be healthier for you. It retains more of the vitamins than dehydrating. Again, I understand this is a very big expense to get started. We didn't have the cash either, so what we did is we ordered our freeze dryer through the Home Depot when I got a coupon. And the coupon was for larger purchases to be spread over, I think I got 2 years on this, interest-free. And that's a big deal. It's not so bad making payments if you're not paying it all to interest. We don't like to do that a lot, but we are on a limited income, so unfortunately we do have to put purchases on credit cards oftentimes, and when we can, we do it using this method as an interest-free option. And it looks like one tray will fit in this bag. And this bag that I'm using today is an 8 by 12, but they do come in smaller or larger bags. Okay, so I have my freeze-dried product in there. And now I need to put in an oxygen absorber, and they come in different sizes. For the small bags and the medium bags, I usually use the 300 cc's. For the medium large and large or extra large, I always use a 6 or a 700 cc's. If you're in between and you're not sure, you can always use a 600 or 400 or two 300s, whatever you have on hand. But there for a while I had difficulty finding the 300s. Okay, so on the oxygen absorbers, you do not want to open them until you are ready to use them. They go bad quickly. So I am just going to barely cut the top off here. I'm going to take one out, throw it in the bag. Close that over while I'm getting ready to seal this. Now, there's a setting dial here on the left side of the sealer. And then I'm just going to lay the bag. These are have the quick tear opens on the side here. I don't know if you can see that little nick on each side. So I always try to seal at the very top of the bag. Now, depending what I have in these bags, I often will wash them out and reuse them, and that's okay. You've just lost your tear seal, and then you can't fill it quite as full and then seal it, down here. So I can usually get 2 or 3 uses out of a bag. But today I'm using a new bag. It is easier to mark on the bags before you fill them. So this one is the yellow squash, and I put today's date on it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and seal it. It doesn't take long. Press down firmly, and you will kind of hear the heat kick on. And now the bag is sealed. Nice smooth seal across the back. Can't see it so much on the front. Maybe you can see it much better on the back. Okay, so now I can put this in my storage, and it's good for up to 25 years. It won't last that long, but it's nice to know that I can store for medium-term storage and long-term storage and shorter-term storage if I wanted to freeze my produce instead of freeze drying it. So you want to be sure to reseal your little bags here, your little oxygen absorbers. So I'm just going to put that in a sealer. I did reduce the temperature to a 4 or a 5, I think I have mine on 5, or in between 4 and 5. And then we will just do the same thing. Press down, hold it for a moment, let up, and I have a nice seal again. So now these will be good for the next time I need them. Okay, so I'm going to unplug this and put it away. Well, put it aside. It is still hot. Want to make sure it's completely cool before I put it away. Okay, so the rest of it I'm going to go ahead and do in the jars. It's easier to store them on my shelf. I have seen a lot of people store the Mylar bags in their pantry on the shelf in a row. But I really like this method since it lasts for probably up to 3 years, no problem. And that's what I've kind of been doing so far. And I do plan on making up a lot of soups here in the future, so a lot of this will be used. Obviously, as long as I have fresh, I'll be using the fresh. But the plants only last so long. Okay. See, this is going to get just a little over 1. Sometimes the little rubber seal comes out. You just put it back in. Okay, so now that I've packaged up all my produce, my freeze dryer is still running because I wanted to make sure I was able to get through all the produce packaging without anything starting to reabsorb moisture and having to put it back in the freeze dryer. So at this point, my freeze dryer is very iced up. You cannot use it again until it is defrosted and dried up. Then I can use it again. So now I have an older model. So I have an older model of vacuum pump. Hopefully you can see that here. That every 5 loads or so I have to change the oil. Now I can reuse that oil by running it through a filter such as a Brita or something similar. But I do have to change it approximately every 5 loads. I think I just did it 2 loads ago. So at this point, I'm going to hit defrost. You can just shut it off and open it up, but I like to hit the defrost so it goes pretty quickly. Now when you're doing this, I always have, there's a hose that comes from the freeze dryer. I always have a bucket underneath it to catch all that water, because you'll end up with, depending on the product, could be anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of water in the bottom of this bucket. And then you want to make sure that you empty that each time, because I've heard horror stories of where somebody forgot, and then their next load, they opened the vacuum and it just sucked all that moisture back up into their food and ruined the whole batch. Okay, so I'm going to hit defrost. Oop. Come on, there we go. It says to remove product from dryer, close the door for defrost. I already did that. So I'm going to hit continue. So it takes 2 hours to go through a defrost. After it does that, I always open the door and take off the seal so that to make sure that it can dry thoroughly around that seal. And then I like to dry out the bottom because even though it has the drain, oftentimes there's just a little bit of water underneath the middle tray here. I mean underneath the middle of the freeze dryer where it's rounded. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Okay, so I have everything packaged up, and this holds about a quart, it feels like, and looks like in here. So I believe that it was one whole tray, so that was right about a quart. And then I have another 2 full quarts for shorter term storage, and 3/4 of a pint and a half, plus the quart of okra. So if you're enjoying this type of video, please like, subscribe, and share our videos on your social media. It's the best way that you can help our channel to grow. Thank you so much for watching Jimmy Branch Homestead. God bless.